right, the featherweight division coming up this weekend. We have a man that almost reached the pinnacle with the PFL in the pit. Daniel Pineda, he's going to be taking on Top Gun Tucker Lutz. A couple of guys where inactivities really caused them issues. For Pineda's last time out was in early summer 2021. Tucker Lutz not that far after that. For both of these guys, injuries the reasons why we haven't seen them. And I listened to a couple of different interviews that shed some light on both of their respective plights. But when you do look at this matchup, Matt, I mean, you consider it. Daniel Pineda runs around Tucker Lutz in terms of experience. I think that has to be said. For Pineda, he fought on a card where, I mean, Dana White famously said that's f***ing illegal, but he fought on an Elite XC card where Kimbo Slice made his pro debut and KJ Noons finished Nick Diaz. Can you believe that? Daniel Pineda fought on that card.
Daniel Pineda, been there, done that.
He's like an old leather boot.
But that's the great thing about Daniel Pineda. I know he came to the UFC at a weird point in his career, and I think that's fair to say, because there's a lot of fighters...
Whoa. The first time he didn't, the second time he did.
That's true, sorry. This run that he is currently on, I'm a little bit curious about what his overall ceiling could be, because you kind of knew what we were going to get. Does he have a bad gas tank? Is the sky blue? Do bears shit in the woods? Yeah, he doesn't have a great gas tank, but if he gets guys on the ground and gets on top of them... Does he normally destroy them and make it look really easily? Yeah, he does. And that's the thing about Pineda. The one skill that he has, which is his offensive grappling, his jiu-jitsu, his wrestling, I would say, but
his powerful striking.
His powerful striking, too. But the thing about his striking is, I consider that a little bit more 50-50. It can get him caught, and especially if he's throwing a lot of big, wild power shots. And that's the thing about Pineda that I will be curious to see. How much is timing a part of his game? I know he's been there, he's done that. We talk about the experience quite a bit, but with the time off, I'll be curious to see what version of him we do get. Is it still going to be that balls to the wall, I'm going to go right at Tucker Lutz, try to get him down and throw my power shots? Because if we do get that version of him, I got to be honest, we didn't have this on the Fight of the Night screen. We could get a pretty great 6-minute Fight of the Night, I think, in the featherweight division.
So he did an interview, Daniel Pineda, with MMA Sucka, James Lynch, and he said, okay, last time he fought, it was injuries. So James tried to press him on that one, and his response was, and I quote, a little bit of lower body. He was very kind of coy about
He's like the Washington Capitals in 2013, just being very
what the injury was. He said, they told me it would be a year and a half to try and get back. He was able to kind of rehab it, work through it, didn't necessarily need the surgery, but he also touched on the fact that he's looking to make this another Fight of the Night style fight, and he wants to go out there and get another finish, because if you look at it, 27 wins, 27 finishes, and I don't know if I've ever seen a 5-on-in where the guy was 1-1 with 3 no contests. But let me try and explain all of these fights to you.
Might take a minute.
For Daniel Pineda, he had success in the UFC his first turn. And I know he's really sour that he left on kind of a bad note. But he fought a really high-level competition. He was with Legacy. He fought Pat Schilling in the UFC debut, finished him. Then he fought Mackin Smergier. He finished him in the first round. He fought Mikey Brown from American Top Team, lost Antonio Carvalho, beat Justin Lawrence, lost to Barandau and Robert Whiteford. Pretty good fighters. And then he went out there and beat Leonard Garcia with Legacy. But he went back, he fought for Fury, fought for Legacy, did Daniel Pineda, and then all of a sudden he was in the PFL season. And it was the second season of the PFL, or rather it was the first season of the PFL. He beat Mavlid Haibulaev in 29 seconds. Mavlid's a very good fighter. Then he beat JBC Junior Bacon Cheeseburger Jeremy Kennedy in the first round. In the same night. They end up as a no contest because the Nevada State Athletic Commission said that his testosterone levels were too high.
That.
He then takes off just about a year, and the UFC signs him. And I should mention, out of those 2 wins that Pineda had in the same night, he was then supposed to fight in the finals against Lance Party Palmer. Could have had an opportunity at $1 million. So, Pineda makes his UFC debut against other Burns. He takes on Herbert Burns, one championship's own. He had a lot of success there. And in that fight, he was a plus 210 underdog. And after that fight, he had a performance bonus, Matt. And he looked amazing in that fight.
Going into that.
Then Pineda fights Cub Swanson, and we have a big pendulum shift in the odds.
Cub Swanson looked like the greatest fighter of all time.
At the end of the first round in the second round.
The combination he landed was
Pineda
insane.
was a minus 175 favorite in the matchup. Pineda looked great to start the fight.
Exactly.
Cub Swanson was coming off major ACL surgery. Pineda was targeting the legs with great leg kicks. It's something he's known for in his career. Finished Haibulaev that way. And in that fight, he starts to slow down at the end of the first round. By the second round, he's spent. So then he takes another 6 months off, does Pineda. He fights Andre Fili, and I counted him getting dropped and stunned 3 times in the first round. Body kicks, hooks, punches, everything that Feely was hitting was landing on Pineda, who just kept rushing the distance. He had no success with his grappling. And in the second round, I know it's a no contest accidental eye poke. It was a no contest accidental eye poke. It was right in there gross. For a long time. So you hate to see the fight ending that way because Feely was having this success. But for Pineda, it also sucks. He was booked to take on Jamal Emmers last year, but obviously the injuries aggravated that. And for Tucker Lutz, the same thing, Matt, can be said because he's the type of guy that also fights with a really high pace, like Daniel Pineda. But Lutz is kind of gotten away from what got him to the dance, which was those early finishes that he had. And I listened to an interview that he did on Behind the Cage Door with Jake Lippman. So credit to Jake Lippman. And in that fight, Tucker Lutz says he had a lot of different issues with the injuries. And quote, I say, I've been having some nagging injury that flared up real bad with my back. So I was on the shelf all of last year, kind of rehabbing and getting good. And luckily able to swerve surgeries, was his quote. So, listen, Tucker Lutz is going through those back injuries. Obviously, in his UFC debut, he looked great against a fellow Texan, kind of similar to Daniel Pineda, in Kevin Aguilar. And then his last time out, he took on Pat Sabatini. And Sabatini's grappling and control, which kind of sucks for a guy that trains at a team ground control for Tucker Lutz. He got ground controlled in that one. So for Lutz, it didn't necessarily work out. His background actually is wrestling, is Tucker Lutz, but his boxing is really what gets it done in a lot of these fights.
It is quite crisp, but he does do a good job of incorporating the power shot in with just his combinations, kind of the pitter-patter up top, and I think he'll be able to use that to great success in this matchup, but I would love to see Lutz go to the body more in this matchup. I think it will be open against a guy like Pineda.
In the fight against Kevin Aguilar, he popped the jab and then he throw a right hook to the
that's
body.
What I mean. Just keep that going when you're fighting Pineda, because Pineda will strike with his hands down, get clipped, and then immediately bring them up. When he immediately brings them up, that body is wide open more often than not. So I do think that's something Lutz can take advantage of as this fight goes on. And you're right, Lutz was a guy who did burn extremely hot earlier on in his career, was getting a lot of earlier finishes, but he toned it down in a positive way, I would say. It's not like Shane Carwin when he toned it down and he lost 40 pounds of muscle. That might have been due to other stuff now that I'm talking about it. We don't need to talk about it, but you get the idea. For Lutz, his less aggressive style has actually turned in a lot more positive results, and I'd be very curious to see if that game plan will be able to carry him against Pineda, because that's the thing, if Lutz shows up to fight in the first round and Pineda does too, this is going to be some of the crazier 5 minutes of action you've ever seen.
Yeah, he mentioned that in the interview with Jake Lippman, that I haven't had a finish in a while, which has been bothersome to me, because he wants to go out there and really
we could get a pretty good fight.
And if you look at it for Lutz, I mean, he's a national amateur kickboxing champion, and that total combined opponent record coming into the UFC was 59-52. So not really the best level competition that Lutz had faced. Daniel Pineda's faced some of the best that you're going to find out there. Lutz is a pretty big favorite in the matchup. When you have two guys coming off of a really long layoffs, I kind of want to stay away from it, especially when guys want to come in with fight of the night style fights, and they are definitely finishers. It scares you off of picking either one of them. But we have a look at the Tapology votes, Matt. Surprise to us there, to you. I'm going to say that the fans I'm going to say over under 70% Lutz.
I think it'll be over, and I have a reason why.
And it is over, because you looked. No. 686 total votes, 85% Lutz, 77% by decision. What? For the 15% that have Pineda, 46% by decision. He's never won by decision. 32% by knockout. The fans overwhelmingly see this one going to a decision. I don't, but who's your pick here?
I worry about Pineda's gas tank on a good day. He's 37 years old and he's taking years off. I worry about his gas tank quite a bit against Tucker Lutz. Now, is this a fight that's going to determine the next champion of the featherweight division? No, I don't think it is, but I do like Tucker Lutz in the matchup. I do worry about the negatives being more accentuated from a guy like Pineda with all this time off. I'll be the first one to admit if I'm wrong, if that is the case on Saturday, but I do have Lutz in the matchup.
Tucker Lutz in his UFC Q&A, it says he has a PhD from the School of Hard Knocks. Matt, that hits
Does he
hard.
Eat nails for breakfast, spelled tough with 2 Fs?
I like when he throws combinations and he goes to the head and then he dips down to the body. As I said, he incorporates the body kick. So I like Tucker Lutz in the matchup. It's a really volatile one out there. I'd really like to hear from you down below in the comment section as to who you have, because featherweight is on fire and we got some really good fights on this card. You're not going to want to miss any of them. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.